so today, Erin, we're going to be asking you a few questions. So first, do you think teaching is a profession? Why or why not?
Yes, I think teaching is a profession. I think it's an important profession. I think there's lots to teaching more than just what some people realize. I've learned that from teaching. I think that it's a profession that sometimes doesn't get high recognition. And I think that there's a lot of people that enjoy teaching, and I think there's some people that do not like teaching. I think education, just our system, is kind of looked down on sometimes, and teachers put in a lot more work than what a lot of people know about.
Okay.
I do believe that teaching is a profession. It takes 4 to 5 years to obtain a degree to become a certified teacher. Interaction with a variety of students and peers takes commitment and sacrifice. Continuing education is done to continue to enhance your career in this profession.
Do you think teaching is a high status profession? Why or why not?
Although many people don't believe that teaching is a high status profession, for those involved in this profession, we like to believe that it is. Helping students to achieve and set them on a good path in their lives is very important to many educators.
Status. Do you think teaching is a profession?
Definitely. But it's not considered a profession by everybody. I consider it a profession because it falls into all of the same categories. I have to have a higher education, I have to continue my education. There are a set of rules that we have to follow as teachers. There's a certain level of expectation by the public, just like lawyers and doctors, that we have to set. So I think it definitely is a profession.
How are curriculums controlled by standardized testing?
Standardized testing is way overrated. Many students don't do well on them and still go on and have great careers. Iowa has changed to the core curriculum. Personally, I am not in favor of them, and I still teach the way that I think is the best, regardless of what the core has to say.
I never really knew what they meant, like when they say you teach based on what the test is, and that's what I do a lot, even in preschool. You know, we have like our curriculum that we use is like play-based, so they're centers and that's how they play, and we're supposed to document their learning through their play and what we notice about them. And I noticed that a lot of what I teach is based on what I need the kids to know for my assessment. You know, a child just on like a test maybe not be able to perform very well. Maybe they're just a poor test taker, but in the classroom, like in their interactions, and you know, they may be able to tell a teacher in a different way just, you know, later on or whatever than just one test. Great. So now in preschool, they're like, well, now you have to do this assessment because we have to make sure that we're identifying children right away instead of waiting until they get to like 2nd grade to identify them and give them the help that they need.
Kindergarten, but we feel like we have to get them ready. Obviously, we have to lay a solid foundation. With No Child Left Behind, we have a lot of higher expectations than there were probably 5 years ago. So it is a really important push to teach them how to read and write and make sure they know all their letters and sounds before going to 1st grade. We definitely need standards, but I just feel like there's like this personal touch and remembering that they're kindergarten and that they're 5 and 6. A lot of the kids don't do well on this test because it seems like it would be more for 2nd or 3rd grade, the format of it.
So we are somewhat manipulated by the curriculum. We as a district have tried to purchase curriculum that fit the needs of our kids. One, to be able to do the standardized test, but also to cover all of the standards that are necessary, whatever curriculum area it happens to be. But we are kind of controlled by standardized tests through our curriculum because they're written to match the standards and the standardized tests. But we are more set to those standards because our federal funding is tied to those standards, the Iowa tests, the Iowa assessments, because that's how we get our money, is if we pass those tests. But people don't realize too, the amount of federal dollars is minute compared to the amount of state dollars. So if you lose your federal funding, you can still make it. Yeah. I mean, it's not hard, it's not easy. But, yeah, and there are other options, and just because it's not broke doesn't mean it can't be fixed. Because there are things, I mean, we are obviously have slipped in rankings in the world, and we are not keeping up. Something has to change. And I would be all for looking at those changes. What can we do different? Because we are teaching basically the same as we did 150 years ago. We're teaching the same.
My first year teaching was fall of 1975. We had a textbook for 8th grade language arts, and that was pretty much it. Here's your textbook, teach.
Right.
We had freedom, but we had a little more of a curriculum in Cedar Rapids, and then that progressed over time. And then once you started getting into No Child Left Behind and some of those other things, there was more coordination. I think that's probably a function of bigger districts, because bigger districts just have more people to look it over.
Right.
And so freedom. Whereas like English 1 is English 1 is English 1.
Right.
Creative writing might be kind of what you come up with. AP is a program that you teach. I mean, so AP is AP, but other elective courses, you might have a sociology course, for example, within social studies. That's probably a lot more freedom there.
Right.
When you look at curriculum, if you look at curriculum as the what and instructions the how,
Mm-hmm.
you still always had more freedom in the how than the what. I mean, there's still, even with No Child Left Behind and stuff, the how you get there is more up to you. And back in the day, it was totally up to you. And
Right.
the curriculum was mostly up to you too. But in the long run, I'm an old man now, but nobody really asks me my ITBS score.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it opened some doors. I mean, ACT, I guess, opened some doors, but ultimately, my life wasn't really
defined by a test.
I sure hope it wasn't.
Right.
My God.
And with the teachers union, do you see a lot of pros and cons, or do you think it's obsolete, or is it still needed in today's schooling?
I'm not part of Prairie's union, just for personal reasons, but I appreciate what they do. I think it's probably needed. Some people are in the union just because they're afraid they're going to get sued from families. That's not my feeling of why I would need to be in the union, but they do make great decisions, and so far I've been on board with all the decisions that they've made.
I think that sometimes when the teachers who are, I had a lot of professors who were tired of teaching and who definitely probably should have been out of teaching, and even elementary teachers, so I guess it kind of depends. It can be a good thing and can be a bad thing.
In my opinion, the teachers union is okay. They negotiated salaries, will back you if you get into trouble. Money comes out of your check each month to pay dues. I believe that being part of the teachers union is a good idea for young teachers just starting out, because it is a sort of probationary period for them and the union has your back. I belonged to the union for a while, but haven't for about 13 years.
What are your feelings about teacher unions?
I think just like kind of going back to is teaching a profession, or how high a scrutiny the teachers are under, those things lead to the necessity of a teacher union. Without those, teachers would be just railroaded out so often. But there's also there is that need. There is a definite need. Teachers as a group aren't seen as highly as professional as other people, needing unions. So that's one reason why we need them. But also, there are bad teachers that stay in teaching and are protected by a union. So there are good and bad things about them. But I truly feel we do need them. And it can help and it can hurt. You can get teachers that will stay in teaching that shouldn't be teaching. And there needs to be a way to either help those teachers to see, no, you shouldn't be in this profession, or to help those teachers to see the changes that they need to make. The decisions I make, the things that we do for kids, we're affecting the future of our nation. And it's pretty important.
I absolutely think that teaching is a profession. I think really it's the most important profession there is, because without teachers, how do you ever have doctors, lawyers, business executives, researchers, scientists, anything? All of those people were once children who had to be taught in the schools. They're really in charge of the future of our nation, and all those professions that we rely on so heavily, we wouldn't have without teachers.
I agree with some of the people who were interviewed for this project on the fact that many people don't believe it's a high status profession, but as teachers, we do. I think that people don't realize just how important teaching is to us, our children, our future, and our society. Teachers shape us. Everyone has had a teacher at some point in their lives. Even the high-status professionals needed teachers to get where they are.
I don't really care for standardized tests. I think that teachers are forced to teach to them, and so that leaves out the opportunity for a lot of great learning opportunities. But the thing is, so many kids aren't good at testing, and that doesn't mean that they're not smart or that they don't understand the material. It just means that they're not great at filling in the bubbles, because I think that they're hurting students more than they are helping them.
I know they are very important to schools for funding and staying open. Every teacher I have asked about these tests dislike them. They do not show what people know, and schools should not be judged on the performance of their students on the standardized tests. Students often don't care and won't try on the tests. This isn't an accurate tool to measure their knowledge and understanding. As far as unions go, I see positives and negatives of being a part of one. I feel teacher unions are good for newer teachers while you're getting started and establishing yourself. This can protect you in several ways. Once you are well established and not so new to teaching, I believe you don't really need to be a part of the union.
And I think that teacher unions are a good thing. I think it's great that teachers have a sense of protection. I know in my field experience, my teacher was having an experience where she needed her union and was really grateful to have them backing her up. However, you know, if teacher unions are what's kind of keeping bad teachers, you know, are prolonging tenure and making sure that bad teachers stay in the classroom or making it more difficult to get them out, then I think that maybe the source of unions needs to be reevaluated. I hope to see the future of education shift in a way that is positive for students, teachers, parents, and the communities.
Do you think teaching is a profession?
Yes, I do think it is a profession because, well, like on one side you can say, well, it is a profession, and it's anything you can enjoy, you study for, or even you go to school for. So we're all going to school for it, we're going to multiple years for it, we're spending money for it.
You get a certificate.
You get a certificate. It's a profession. It's no different than being a professional mechanic. You have to be certified, to be a good one, you have to be certified. You have to have a little card saying you went through this training, you're a professional.
Then why are we being paid like fast food workers? You know, we're being treated like we're on the same level as them.
And it is low paying, but then again,
is it really low paying?
That's
we get the summers off.
Right, that was my argument, is that it's really not as low paying as people make it out to believe. Now, would we all like it to be higher? Sure, we absolutely everybody wants to make more money, but the fact that I consider it a profession is that teachers are responsible for. Without teachers, we wouldn't be able to. People who will become doctors and lawyers and whatnot could not get to that point without having that fundamental foundation of basic education that we all get. And
yeah, but isn't teaching just sit there and babysit? I mean, isn't it glorified babysitting?
Isn't that what technology is, where you can learn all that stuff on the computer instead of having a teacher tell you?
So they give you this math book and they say, okay, teach this. So you go into the classroom, you say, okay, everybody open to chapter 1. We're going to do chapter 1 today. We're going to do chapter 2 tomorrow. I mean, where's the thought?
So we've all had teachers probably like that who would just say, here's the book, open up and read it. And what do we all think of those teachers? That class sucked. 4th grade sucked, wherever that teacher was. And I personally get more from interaction with people explaining it.
Anytime that I've had an opportunity to be in a class with a teacher or over a book on the internet or just a piece of technology or whatnot, the amount that you take from that, I think is more impactful when you have a teacher that you can actually interact with instead of just a piece of technology. Now, granted, technology that goes hand in hand with a teacher, great. I think it adds more benefit to that classroom and more substance to it.
But you can just stand there. There's your book. You have any questions? Come talk to me.
But you still have a teacher.
Right.
And
but is it really that hard to answer a 3rd grader's question? Well, how do I do this problem? Well, it's right there in the book. Here, let's read it together. It's right there in the book. So why is teaching a profession if all you have to do is read this 3rd grade math book and say, oh, this is how you, okay, now I'm going to show you how to do this problem. It's all right there. Where's the skill?
Teachers go out of their way to go teach the students who don't get things, who have trouble with reading.
So you just repeat it.
So there are those kids who won't need a teacher. There are those kids who are going to give them a book, they'll read it, they'll get it, they'll go on. and they can go through all of college without even stepping in the classroom. That's a percentage, and that does happen. But I mean, I think there's a majority of people who just like might need a little extra guidance and proper guidance, and people who want to do that, and people who have the personalities to actually engage with younger people and think, well, how would a 10-year-old see this question, and then flip it so they get it. That's a skill set. That's a profession.
So what are you guys' views on standardized testing?
I think standardized testing is used to the extremes, and it's used in a way that really handicaps the teachers, because it's forcing them to just teach to a test, because whether their jobs rely on it or funding from to the school relies on it. I think that standardized testing has a valid place. I don't think it should be thrown out, but I think that the way that it's reinforced to teachers and students is going about it the wrong way. So there needs to be like a happy medium found. Like, not so much pressure on it, but then not so like lackadaisical where it's like.
But how are you going to keep track of what these third graders in Minnesota are learning compared to what these third graders in New York are learning? I mean,
running records. I mean, you don't need a test to tell you anything. A test, I mean, yeah, it can tell you a little bit, but the test is not in there in the classroom with you each day, seeing what your children are learning and how they're advancing.
And how do you prevent the teachers in wherever from teaching their first graders the same thing these kindergartners are learning, or these third graders the same thing these kindergartners are learning? You need some sort of right, but what is the standard for a third grade?
Well, that's up to the school district to determine.
Right. So you're saying each school district should decide what their third graders should learn.
But are you saying that the people who create the test should decide, because they're not educators?
I'm saying that there should be an overall standard all across the United States.
And really, don't you guys think that standardized tests are creating kids to be robots? Oh, you need to remember this and be able to fill out this answer on a test.
That's why teachers are professionals.
Yeah,
and because a professional teacher knows how to balance it the right way. And as far as standardized testing, like Jackie said, it needs to be across the board. All schools in the United States need to have a certain plateau or a certain like level, landing, whatever. There needs to be one par where everybody gets to. And then anything above that, that's the professional teachers taking in their own view, which they get hired, so they must have a right view of how to do their class individually. And it's also like a global thing too. America recently has been like getting a bad rap on our kids aren't good at math and science and reading, we're slacking off. Well, if we start raising these standards, we can get back on par with that, and we can still have our teachers have their own personal views with this. So there are flaws in it. It is a flawed system. It's the system that we need right now, because there's no other system, and without it, it's too much free will, and the whole global market is run off numbers. So we have to play with the numbers. We have to play that game to get us where we need to be.
Well, guys are making it sound like children are numbers, but we need to treat them all individually, because that's what they are, individuals. We have to be realistic here. I mean, we're trying to do the best for our children, and to set such high bars for them when we know they can't reach it is unfair.
I think with that, if they're not telling teachers how to teach all of these
things. I mean, it's all about playing the game to get money for global. It's all. I mean, you just got to play the game in the world.
What do you guys think about unions? Do you think they're good, bad? What do you guys think?
Well, I can only attest to like how I'm looking at the state of Iowa. I'm not looking at nationally, because I'm looking how it'll affect me personally when I start to get into the teaching profession. And here in the state of Iowa, unions can't save my job. So I don't necessarily think they're great. I mean, because if you're one of the first ones, a lot of school policies are, if you're one of the first ones or last ones hired, you're the first ones out the door if you get cut. And there's nothing a union can do about it. And I've been in unions that are neutered. They call it neutered union. When I used to work at a past job, and basically I wasn't able to go on strike. I mean, and so what am I paying my dues for, basically? Or whatever.
If an issue comes up, then you team together and you stand together for these.
Right, I think it's all about having that support. You know that it'll be there if you need it.
Right.
Shouldn't your support be your body of work?
Good point.
Well, but all
So that's why you
educators don't
join.
look at our principals, whoever's fired,
Well,
they don't look at all
if your
that.
body of work is good enough, you don't need somebody to pat you on the back all the time and say you're not going to get fired.
Or protect you from getting fired if you
And
are
if you're
doing the right things.
good at your job, you don't have to worry about losing your job.
I mean, a union isn't going to keep you from, fulfilling your dream of being a teacher if they're not there to protect you, or if they are there to protect you or whatnot. I mean,
What about the teachers who are bad that are protected by unions?
That's why we don't get unions.
That's why we're against it.
But on the same token, that can help you because what if you have a student who just doesn't like you and they're vindictive and
Right.
they have their parents?
Well,
you
the
know,
people who
complain
hire and fire in the school board are not going to. It's going to take more than one grouchy mom just to fire.
about
If that's the case,
You come up to a mom who thinks their
Yeah.
child has been messed with.
Exactly.
It's like,
But that's a mom
that's
mentality.
one.
Mama bear.
but that's one.
But
So-
they can
But
have
they've
their
got
friends and they
big
come
voices.
and tax pile. You don't know
Oh, yeah.
about
So,
us
so
women.
then you're telling me that in this community, that the school district that you work for, that allows a pack of mama bears to run your school, I don't want to work there. I want people who are educated enough to know what I'm doing and know I'm doing the right job, rather
But
than
you
having
also-
a pack of angry mama bears mad at me because their son told a lie.
You also want to listen to the parents, though.
Yeah, and
want
yeah,
it to
you
be
have
a
to listen.
community in your
Well, I
child.
think-
If you truly believe that a teacher is treating your child poorly, you want to see some action against that teacher.
Are you going to rest until they're not fired? Do you want other children to have to suffer those
That just
injustices?
depends on what the.
And if they're being nasty to your child, chances are they're being nasty to other people's children.
Well, I guess it just depends on what the issue was. I mean, to make it how big of
Yeah, that
a
can be
problem
bigger
that
than
I want to
kids.
make of it, kind of deal.
Are the credits rolling?